Salty sea wind mixed with fine spray slapped against the heavy steel hull of the Farsi warship. White foam curled up and shattered across the endless deep blue surface. Colin Mather raised his hand and ran his fingertips over the faded naval insignia on his shoulder. The metal badge showed a pale, frosty rust along its edges from years of saltwater corrosion. That was the mark 7 years of blue water service had carved into him. The ship's horn sounded long and low, cutting across the horizon. That was the signal for return to port. Hundreds of sailors in dark blue coveralls on the deck straightened up at the same time, their eyes fixed on the distant landmass gradually appearing on the horizon. Long-suppressed anticipation spread freely with the sea breeze. Colin stood by the ship's rail, his chest churning with complicated emotions he couldn't quite put into words. Half of it was relief at finally ending the long voyage. The other half was a tender hope buried deep in his heart for 7 years, never fading by even half. 7 years ago, he had resolutely set aside the business affairs of the Mather Maritime Group, a family enterprise his family had cultivated for decades, and volunteered for service in the Farsi Navy. Everyone around him had been unable to understand his choice at the time. Born into a maritime dynasty, holding top-tier maritime engineering expertise, and sitting on substantial family wealth, he should have been stationed in a city office tower, controlling shipping and marine projects across the entire sea region. Why endure the boundless perils of the open ocean and trade his life for a Navy service record? Only Colin himself understood the obsession driving him. Since his youth, he had harbored a dual passion for the deep blue sea. One part was a sense of national duty, a yearning to don the uniform and guard the maritime border against all kinds of risks lurking in distant waters. The other was a desire to give himself and his fiancée, Olivia, a man's true confidence. Olivia was the love he had met in his youth. Gentle, beautiful, and elegant in speech, her curved brows and eyes at their first meeting had always soothed all the anxieties in his work. After they got engaged, Olivia would often confide her unease to him in a soft voice. She worried about him constantly traveling for business negotiations and being surrounded by all sorts of people. The time they spent together was scarce. Colin, I'm not afraid of hardship, but I'm afraid of long-term loneliness. She had leaned on his shoulder back then, with an unshakable sadness hidden deep in her eyes. I want a house that belongs only to us, by the sea, with windows opening to sunrise and tides, so I don't have to worry about you suddenly leaving on business trips for months at a time. Colin had remembered those words for 7 full years. Before enlisting and boarding the ship, he took all the personal savings he had accumulated over the years. He traveled to every seaside plot around the city, personally surveying the coastline for sunlight, tides, and views. He drew the villa's renovation blueprints stroke by stroke, from the size of the living room's floor-to-ceiling windows to the countertop for the flowers on the bedroom bay window, even the railing height on the backyard seaside terrace. Every detail was refined repeatedly. He wanted to build a seaside villa filled only with love for 2 people, as the best home to give Olivia after 7 years of separation. Life on the Farsi voyage was dull, oppressive, and fraught with mortal danger at every moment. The cruiser Colin served on was constantly deployed to distant waters, far from land-based stations. Communications were intermittent, often with only a brief satellite call every dozen or so days. The deep sea was treacherous with undercurrents, and he had encountered force-10 storms several times. Giant waves crashed down like towering black walls onto the deck. The entire ship shook violently, equipment scattered, and seawater flooded the passageways. The icy, bone-chilling water soaked through everything. Everyone held tight to fixed handrails, facing the threat of capsizing and death at any moment. During one deep-sea surveying mission, an unforeseen submarine current erupted underwater. The detection instruments failed instantly, and the ship nearly struck a hidden reef. They were only meters away from a disaster that would have killed everyone aboard. That night, after the wind and waves had subsided, Colin leaned alone against the side of the ship, staring into the boundless black deep. For the first time, he felt an overwhelming exhaustion. But whenever Olivia's gentle smile appeared in his mind, and he thought of the seaside villa still under construction back home, all fear and fatigue were gently smoothed away. Shipboard allowances, Farsi special subsidies, and the monthly dividends regularly transferred from the group. Colin spent none of it on himself. The mess hall food was simple, and he never bought extra snacks or drinks. The standard-issue uniforms were enough for daily wear, so he never ordered a single piece of personal clothing. even when docking at overseas ports. While his comrades went ashore to shop for souvenirs, he would stand at the dock and use the limited communication time to send Olivia text messages. Every bit of income that came in, aside from the bare minimum for basic living expenses, the rest was transferred to Olivia's bank account through an encrypted channel. In his messages, he would repeatedly tell her, "Don't hold back on spending. If you want good food, jewelry, or decor pieces, just buy them. Everything in the villa should be arranged for her comfort." When satellite calls connected, her soft, gentle voice would always come through the receiver, filled with just the right amount of longing and grievance. "Colin, everything at home is taken care of. All the soft furnishings are done according to your blueprints. I put your favorite white rose vase in the master bedroom and change the water every day. At night I often sit on the terrace looking at the sea, and when I see the water, I think of you. I don't know if the waves are rough where you are, or if you're eating properly. 3 more years? 2 more years? Just hold on a little longer, and you'll be out of the Navy and back home. And then we'll never be apart again." Every word, across thousands of miles of ocean, held Colin's whole mind captive. Through countless endless nights at sea, he relied on those call recordings to get through the crushing loneliness. He wrote down post-discharge plans stroke by stroke in his notebook. Every morning, he would watch the sunrise over the sea with Olivia on the terrace. In the afternoons, they would tend the garden together. In his free time, he would take her out fishing, making up for all the lost years of companionship. In the 5th year of service, they officially registered their marriage. Olivia became the rightful Mrs. Mather. When Colin received the news, he stood alone on the deck the entire night. The reflection of the stars on the sea gleamed in his eyes, his heart full of visions of a stable, shared future. He increased his financial contributions to complete the villa's amenities, buying high-end appliances, customizing a double sea-view bathtub, even reserving a separate study to store maritime materials and professional blueprints he had brought back from sea. In the 7th year of service, 1 year before his original term was set to end, after much deliberation, Colin submitted an early discharge application to the Naval Department. Long-term offshore duty had left him with chronic rheumatism. More urgently, he could no longer bear the long separation from his beloved. The application process was complicated and tedious, passing through multiple levels of approval. After a full 3 months of waiting, the discharge approval finally arrived. The day he received the discharge papers, all his shipmates came to congratulate him. "Mather, you've finally made it through. Go home and take good care of your wife, and enjoy that great seaside villa life. 7 years of solitary sea duty, traded for a lifetime of daily companionship. Totally worth it." Colin's lips curled into a faint smile, his eyes brimming with barely concealed anticipation. The day before the ship was due to dock at the home port, he arranged with a port flower shop to pre-order a large bouquet of white roses in full bloom. The pure white petals symbolized lasting devotion, Olivia's favorite flowers. The ship docked, and after completing all discharge formalities, he took off the dark blue uniform he had worn for 7 years and changed into a simple, dark casual suit. Holding the exquisitely wrapped white roses, Colin drove toward the seaside villa he had been longing for. The coastal scenery was gentle along the way, with the early summer sea breeze carrying the faint scent of gardenias. Lush seaside greenery lined both sides of the road. Colin's grip on the steering wheel loosened slightly. His mind kept painting the picture of Olivia's tearful, joyful surprise when she saw him return. A 40-minute drive later, the familiar white standalone villa came into view. Light beige exterior walls with full-floor panoramic glass windows. The backyard opening directly onto a private beach. It was the home he had poured countless efforts into building. The car slowly stopped outside the wrought iron gate. Colin turned off the engine. He placed the white roses on the passenger seat, straightened his collar, and walked slowly toward the entry porch. Sunlight fell on the marble steps of the porch, the glare sharp and clear. Just as he raised his hand to knock on the front door, his gaze suddenly froze. His blood seemed to turn to ice in an instant. In the most visible spot on the entryway steps sat a brand new pair of imported Italian handmade men's leather shoes. Black, glossy, with metal buckle detailing, expensive, refined, size 44. Colin had always worn size 41, and all his own leather shoes were simple matte business styles. These shoes matched nothing about him in style, size, or design. They belonged completely to an unknown man. The burning warmth of returning home was instantly drenched by icy water from head to toe. His heart seized sharply, and a suffocating tightness spread from his chest through his limbs. He stopped dead in his tracks, instinctively holding his breath. His gaze fell on the ajar front door. The gap was small, but through it drifted two intertwined voices laughing inside. One was a deep, lazy male voice chatting and laughing. The other was Olivia's bright, cheerful laughter, the same voice he had heard for 7 years. Etched into his very bones, that laughter carried none of the restrained longing from their calls. It was relaxed, affectionate, filled with the easy pleasure of being with someone close. It was the kind of state that only existed with an intimate partner. Colin's throat tightened. He suppressed the rising bitterness, and softly called into the house. "Olivia?" The chatter inside didn't pause for even a moment. No one responded to his call. The intimate, easy conversation continued without interruption. Through the thin door, every word reached his ears with cruel clarity. In that moment, the resolve that had faced storms and death at sea for 7 years without wavering completely crumbled. He had served on the open ocean in uniform, guarding thousands of miles of maritime territory, brushing past death more than once. He had scrimped and saved, giving everything he had to build this home. He thought he had defended his country and kept his only refuge safe. But absurdly, the home he had fought so hard to protect had already been invaded by another man, occupying everything that should have been his. A surge of rage shot straight to his head, his temples throbbing violently. His clenched fists turned white at the knuckles. His first instinct was to kick the door open and confront them right there, tearing all their disguises apart. But the 7 years of naval discipline, calmness, and restraint buried deep in him pulled him back. He knew the consequences. If he rushed in and started a shouting match, the two inside would immediately delete chat logs, clear out the man's belongings, and wipe any surveillance traces, destroying all proof of the other man's long-term stay. In the end, he would have nothing but pent-up grievance and anger, with no solid evidence to show. Instead, he would be seen as the one causing a scene, losing all composure, and putting himself in a completely passive position. Don't act rashly. Don't reveal anything. Stay steady and collect all the hard proof. Colin took 2 slow steps back, suppressing the emotion that was about to burst from his chest. His footsteps as light as a shadow. He quietly retreated to his car. The bouquet of white roses, symbolizing reunion and devotion, sat quietly on the passenger seat. The pure white petals now seemed unbearably ironic. The car was sealed in silence, dead quiet, except for his own heavy breathing. He didn't start the car and drive away, nor did he go up to knock and confront them. Calmly, he pulled out his private encrypted satellite phone and dialed his personal security team's dedicated line. His tone was flat and indifferent, betraying no emotion. Only his security captain, who knew him well, could detect the chill hidden beneath the words. "It's me, Colin Mather. I'm at the front gate of my villa right now. Do not alert anyone inside. Pull up the last 3 months of full property surveillance footage, visitor entry logs, and underground garage parking records. Back up all original video, paper documents, and back-end data with multiple layers of encryption. Compress them and send them to my private encrypted cloud drive immediately." The security captain sensed something wrong in his tone but didn't ask. He carried out the order without delay. "Understood, Mr. Mather. Everything will be compiled and sent within 10 minutes. He ended the call. Colin leaned back in his seat and looked up at the warmly lit villa not far away. Laughter and chatter kept drifting out from inside. That house, which he had planned stroke by stroke, poured all his finances and heart into, and pinned 7 years of hope on. At this moment, it felt like a cold prison trapping sincerity and filled with lies. He wasn't in a hurry to demand emotional justice. He was going to wait for the complete, irrefutable evidence. In just 8 minutes, a bulk of compressed files appeared on his cloud drive. Segmented surveillance footage, photocopies of property visitor logs, and garage vehicle records filled his screen. Colin's fingers were ice cold as he scrolled through them one by one, layer by layer. They peeled back the perfect illusion Olivia had meticulously woven for so long. Each frame and each line of text cut into what little softness he had left, like thin ice blades. The earliest surveillance footage dated back 4 months. In the footage, Olivia drove the premium seaside car Colin had given her out through the property gate. She drove to the city's outer highway exit to pick up a tall, blond man. The man was Nathan Reed, sharply dressed in a suit, with a flippant demeanor. After getting out of his car, he opened Olivia's passenger door with familiarity, and they laughed and embraced. Together, they drove back to the seaside villa. From that day on, Nathan's figure appeared frequently in every corner of the villa, starting with occasional evening visits, gradually progressing to overnight stays. Finally, he settled in long-term. Like the true man of the house, the property's visitor logs were clearly recorded. Every time Nathan entered the community, his reason for visiting was uniformly filled in as ordinary friend visiting, and on each registration form, the owner's signature column was neatly signed with Olivia's name. Using her status as the property owner, she had given her lover open access, deceiving everyone in property management. The underground garage footage was even more jarring. Colin's designated private parking spot, which he had set aside exclusively for his own use, now held Nathan's luxury sports car, which had sat there for months without moving. In the garage storage room, Olivia had cleared out half a cabinet to hold Nathan's clothes, golf gear, and travel bags. The indoor surveillance recorded countless unbearably intimate daily scenes. Nathan sat at Colin's custom-made solid wood dining table without any restraint, eating his meals, using Colin's collectible fine tableware, lazing on the living room leather sofa all day watching TV, flipping through the maritime magazines Colin had brought back from sea, casually pushing open the study Colin had reserved, sitting in his designated office chair, leafing through scattered project drafts and sea survey data that weren't locked in the cabinet. His movements were natural and familiar, with none of the awkwardness of a guest, and Olivia did nothing but go along with it all, staying close to Nathan the whole time. They cooked together, cuddled on the terrace watching the sea. At night, they sat embraced in the living room chatting. Every gesture was intimate and unguarded. In contrast, every satellite call, every video chat, every long text message Colin sent during his deployments, Olivia's tearful longing, her gentle reminders for him to come home, her complaints of being alone, all of it was a carefully performed act. From thousands of miles away, he had poured out his heart and savings, sending money home to support everything, dreaming of the days after he retired from service, not knowing that all his sacrifices were just enabling his wife and her old lover to live comfortably in his house. Not long after, the security captain called back, his voice grave. "Mr. Mather, after another review of all footage, we confirm that Nathan has been living in the villa long term. Both the master bedroom and guest bedroom contain recently purchased men's toiletries, clothes, and footwear in large quantities. All were recently purchased by Olivia. Purchase records can be backed up as well. All evidence is encrypted with triple redundancy and strictly sealed against any leakage. Keep them permanently. Never delete any original file." Colin replied flatly, his heart already frozen, without a ripple of emotion. He absolutely couldn't return to the villa right now. If he appeared, it would spook them into action immediately. The two of them would clean out all physical evidence and erase whatever the cameras could capture. Colin calmly started the car and drove away from the seaside villa complex, heading toward a downtown backup apartment that had been sitting unused for years. This city apartment was a property he had bought years ago, close to the group's office building. Usually, it was only used as a temporary lunch break spot. Olivia thought the city was too crowded and noisy and had barely ever set foot there. It was the only safe, hidden place right now where she wouldn't find him. Pushing open the apartment door, the decor was sparse and cold, nothing like the warm, cluttered soft furnishings of the villa. Just basic furniture. Colin had barely sat down on the living room sofa when his long silent phone lit up. A WeChat message from Olivia popped up, warm and considerate, just like every other day. "Where are you? Did traffic hold you up? I've been in the kitchen all afternoon. Cooked all your favorite dishes. Made that seafood chowder you like. And I've been sitting at the door waiting for you to come back." A few short lines, full of carefully manufactured concern and waiting. Colin stared at the screen, feeling nothing but bitter irony. While she was inside laughing with another man, she could turn around and send him such tender greetings, acting so flawlessly that you couldn't find a crack. His fingers hovered over the input box. Then he chose to ignore it, not replying with a single word. When her message went unanswered, her video calls came through one after another. The call interface popped up relentlessly, the constant buzzing grating in the quiet apartment. Colin simply set his phone to silent and turned it face down on the coffee table, letting the calls come in over and over, never picking up. Once it was quiet, Colin closed his eyes and leaned back, calmly reassessing every suspicious detail of the situation. Simple infidelity wouldn't allow a strange man to live in someone else's villa for months, freely looking through classified maritime data, spending large sums on men's goods. This was more than just an affair. There had to be a deeper, profit-driven scheme behind it. He immediately unlocked his phone and dialed the encrypted line of Grace, the chief executive of the Mather Maritime Group. Grace had been with him for years, steady and meticulous, skilled in discreet business investigations. She was his most trusted right hand. Grace, I've officially been discharged from the Navy. I need you to carry out a classified investigation. Look into a man named Nathan Reed. Focus on two things. First, whether he has been contacting marine investment firms recently, using my name in any way. Second, whether he has been accessing or stealing internal maritime project documents from the group. Keep everything discreet. All information must be strictly confidential. Only between us. No one else in the group is to know. Grace didn't ask any questions. She responded calmly and decisively. Understood. Colin, I'll immediately mobilize the risk control team to run a covert investigation. All findings will be encrypted and sent to you via private email. He hung up, and Colin let go of whatever lingering personal feelings remained. Betrayal and love was painful enough, but what lay behind the affair, their attempt to plunder his career, reputation, and the group's resources, that was the real damage beyond forgiveness. He was going to uncover the full truth and expose every dirty scheme the two of them had plotted. Chapter 2. Secret messages expose the conspiracy. An old flame colludes to steal assets and classified data. Colin stayed in the downtown backup apartment for 2 full days without leaving. He cut off all communication with Olivia. No replies, no calls, just waiting for Grace's investigation results. During those 2 days, Olivia's messages never stopped, starting with gentle inquiries about his whereabouts, worrying about him getting into an accident, then escalating to tearful complaints and guilt-tripping about 7 years of waiting going to waste, and finally, accusations layered with a tone of reproach, using the emotional leverage of her long-term loneliness to pressure him. Dozens of voice messages, each one with a sobbing, choked voice, crafting the image of a poor wife left alone for 7 years, full of anticipation, only to be coldly mistreated by her returning husband. Colin never opened a single one of those voice messages. He archived them all as supplementary evidence for the upcoming legal proceedings. On the morning of the 3rd day, an encrypted email from Grace arrived, marked with the highest confidentiality level. The attachment contained dozens of investigation documents, bank transaction screenshots, business registration records, investment firm correspondence logs, and a full backup of Nathan and Olivia's chat history. Colin opened every file and read through them word by word. The cold text tore apart the perfect lover persona Olivia had maintained for years, a premeditated scheme spanning years, using love as a cover for profit, laid bare before him. The email began with a clear timeline of the two's connection. Nathan Reed was Olivia's ex-husband. They had married years ago, but divorced after Nathan's overambitious investments failed and left him deeply in debt. When Colin met Olivia, she had deliberately hidden her previous marriage to Nathan. She only mentioned it vaguely as a failed, short-lived relationship. In the 2nd year of Colin's Farsi naval service, Olivia reached out to Nathan, who was still burdened by debt. The old flame reignited quickly, and they started meeting secretly behind his back. At first, it was only occasional encounters, careful not to alert Colin far out at sea. But over time, Nathan realized the immense value Colin possessed. Years of naval service had built his industry credibility. The Mather Maritime Group controlled top-tier marine project assets. The villa held classified maritime survey data, and there was the steady stream of high income flowing into Olivia's account every month. The massive financial temptation sparked a malicious, complete plan for profit. They pooled funds to register a shell marine technology company. No R&D team, no offshore survey equipment, no operational projects. It was purely a fabrication used to lure initial investments from market funds. Their scheme had a clear division of labor. Olivia, using her status as Mrs. Mather, was to steal classified internal maritime blueprints, sea area data, and project feasibility reports from the villa's study and storage. Nathan was to handle the investment firms, He would repackage the stolen professional data as the shell company's own proprietary marine survey technology. In their external promotions, they deliberately fudged details, hinting that Colin Mather, a top industry expert, was the shell company's behind-the-scenes consultant, leveraging Colin's years of built reputation to ease investors' doubts and lure them into committing large amounts of startup capital. Colin opened the fully exported WeChat chat logs in the attachment. Every line of conversation cut straight to the bone, exposing their greedy, selfish scheming with no real feeling behind it. Nathan, once we get the first big round of investment, we'll transfer the money offshore and disappear. He's been out at sea for years. He won't notice a thing. By the time he's discharged, it'll all be too late for him to turn it around. Olivia, I can sneak the documents out and copy them. Hide them in the closet lining. My only worry is him applying for early discharge and messing up our schedule. Nathan, relax. The guy cares too much about face and reputation. Even if he finds out something's off afterward, he'd never make a public scene about infidelity and family shame. He'll just swallow it and compromise. We have nothing to fear from him. Olivia, the monthly household money he sends is enough for our daily expenses. For whining and dining investors, I just pull it straight from the card. You don't need to pay for it. Nathan, once the funding comes through, we'll dump this seaside villa and buy a downtown penthouse. Get rid of his shadow completely. Line after line of conversation flashed before his eyes, and the last shred of softness Colin had for their past relationship shattered into ice. He had once believed Olivia might have been a pitiful victim, led astray by her old lover, but the evidence showed clearly that she was fully conscious and proactive throughout, aware of every detail of the fraud, willingly acting as the accomplice who stole documents and misused marital funds. She enjoyed the comfortable life, social status, and seaside luxury Colin provided, and also dreamed of getting rich overnight through the shell company with her ex-lover. Greedy on both sides, unwilling to let go of either, she was counting on Colin's sense of loyalty and his concern for family reputation, that even if he sensed something wrong, he would choose a quiet, private settlement to save face, rather than expose the family scandal and business frauds simultaneously. What she never counted on was the line in Colin's soul that 7 years of naval service had etched into him. Betrayal and scheming could never be forgiven or overlooked. Just as Colin finished reviewing all the investigation materials, with his mind sinking to its lowest point, Olivia's video call came in again. Insistent. This time, Colin answered. He looked calmly at the carefully made-up face on the screen. In the video, Olivia wore delicate, elegant makeup, with red and eyeshadow at the corners, and tearful eyes. Her voice was laden with grievances and concern. A flawless performance. Colin, where have you been? You're back from service and haven't come home for a whole day. You don't reply to messages or answer calls. I couldn't sleep all night, worrying about you getting into an accident. My heart has been in my throat. Colin stared at the carefully faked fear in her eyes. He cut straight through to the hidden scheme they were both involved in, without any emotional lead-in. Have you been involved in any marine technology startups or offshore survey investment projects recently? The moment he said that, Olivia's eyes betrayed an unmistakable flash of panic. Her pupils contracted, and her body stiffened for half a second. But in an instant, she regained control. Her face plastered with confusion and innocence. She shook her head gently, acting as if she had no idea what he was talking about. I don't understand those professional business projects at all. I only take care of household matters. How would I get involved in startups and financing? Colin, are you misunderstanding something? Her fake confusion and panic flickered back and forth, her lies obvious. Colin didn't push further to expose her. He left her with a brief closing remark and prepared to end the call. I have some important business to handle right now. I'll contact you when it's done. Before Olivia could continue her tearful excuses, Colin ended the video call. He could see clearly that Olivia had been completely blinded by greed, enjoying the stable wealth and social status he had worked so hard for 7 years, while secretly teaming up with her lover to plunder his business and resources, gambling on his soft heart and his concern for appearances. This time, she lost everything. Colin immediately sent an encrypted order to Grace, directing her to dig deeper into the shell company's complete registration chain, the full list of investment firms they had contacted, and all the records of marital funds misused for personal expenses. He wanted it all uncovered, with no evidential loopholes left untouched. As the investigation deepened, More dirty details surfaced one after another. Every new clue made Colin realize the full extent of their bottomless greed. The marine technology shell company set up by Nathan and Olivia had no proprietary technology, no contracted engineers, and no physical offshore survey equipment. It was a complete sham. All the core technical data, survey case studies, and marine engineering plans in their promotional brochures and feasibility reports were directly copied, plagiarized, or stolen from classified internal maritime documents that Colin kept in the villa's study. Even more revolting was the fact that all the expenses Nathan used for entertaining investors, building industry connections, and polishing the shell company's image, wining and dining, hosting meetings at high-end clubs, and gifting the investors, came directly from the household funds that Colin had been transferring from his naval pay and group dividends to Olivia's account. The blood money Colin had earned on treacherous seas, putting his life on the line, the money he scrimped and saved to send to his wife, only to have it used to finance his betrayer and turn into the bedrock of a scheme that could destroy his career. Grace made an urgent encrypted call, her tone tense. "Colin, here's the latest update. They've already connected with 4 major marine investment firms. 2 of them have shown strong interest and are planning in-depth offline meetings next week. Olivia plans to attend in person as a member of the Mather Maritime Group's family to vouch for the project. If those meetings go through, the first round of 8-figure funding will be deposited directly into the shell company's corporate account." Colin pressed her on the critical risk. "In the project proposals the investors have, are the core data stolen from our classified internal materials?" "Completely. The overlap in content is more than 90%. Outside investors wouldn't be able to tell the source of the data. Once the funding is secured, Nathan will immediately transfer all funds and vanish. The group would be left holding the bag for copyright infringement, data leaks, and fraud liability. The damage would be catastrophic." The situation had escalated to a point where he needed to act directly. If the funding went through, multiple disasters, massive losses, industry reputation damage, and classified information leaks would hit at once. Recovering from that would be almost impossible. Colin immediately set his plan in motion. He contacted Rebecca, the group's veteran attorney specializing in commercial infringement and marital disputes. They would simultaneously launch evidence notarization and a full legal counteroffensive. Half an hour later, Colin, Grace, and attorney Rebecca held an encrypted 3-way meeting. They shared all the investigative evidence, property surveillance footage, chat logs, financial transactions, and shell company records. After reviewing the entire chain of evidence, Rebecca's tone was serious and deliberate. She clearly identified the multiple legal violations. This is no longer just a marital infidelity issue. Together, they constitute misappropriation of marital assets, copyright infringement, and commercial fraud against the investors. Digital chat logs and surveillance footage are highly vulnerable to remote deletion. The most urgent step is to notarize all electronic and paper evidence at a notary office to give it full legal validity. Grace raised the potential public relations risk from the group's operational angle. If we go public with the infidelity and sensationalize catching them in the act, the industry narrative could backfire. Outsiders who don't know the full story might spin it as Colin being absent at sea for years and neglecting his wife. They could shift the blame onto you, damaging the group's reputation and making it harder to cut off their funding channels. Colin stayed calm and clear-headed, having already weighed the best approach. He would not sink into messy emotional drama. He would strike directly at the foundation of their business scheme. 4-step plan. First, notarize all surveillance footage, chats, transaction records, and corporate filings to create legally admissible originals. Second, issue a top-level internal risk control notice at the group, forbidding any employee or branch from endorsing this Shell Marine Tech project. Third, draft a formal public clarification letter and send it to all the investment firms that have been in contact with Nathan. Objectively state that I and the Mather Maritime Group have no connection to this shell company. Address only the commercial infringement facts, not the personal affair. Fourth, permanently revoke all of Olivia's affiliated family access privileges from the group's back-end systems, sealing her ability to access or retrieve any internal project data. Kindness and tolerance could never curb bottomless greed. From the moment he set this counterattack plan, Colin let go of all personal feelings. His actions followed only the law, hard evidence, and clear wins or losses. They had hoped to get rich by stomping on his 7 years of effort and professional reputation. He would shatter their dreams of easy money and bring their entire fraud scheme crashing down. ## Chapter 3. Cutting off the money flow. The moral blackmail hits the notary office expedited the processing of all the evidence. Staff verified the original surveillance footage, encrypted chat backups, bank transfer records, and corporate registration documents on site. Every piece of material was stamped and notarized, with multiple encrypted copies stored to prevent loss or tampering. Attorney Rebecca drafted a precise, restrained official clarification letter based on the notarized evidence. The letter stated only the facts of commercial infringement and data theft, with no emotional accusations. It didn't mention the affair at all. It simply notified the investment firms that all the core technical materials in Nathan's shell company were illegally stolen from Colin's private classified maritime documents. It affirmed that neither Colin nor the Mather Maritime Group had authorized any fundraising or promotional activities for that company, and that all their claims were false and unrelated to the group. The clarification letter, stamped with the group's legal seal, was sent through official channels to the compliance departments of all 4 investment firms. Upon receiving it, the investors cross-checked the project proposals against the original data sources. They immediately realized that the entire fundraising pitch was based on fraudulent and infringing materials. Their alarm bells rang loud. All cooperation talks with Nathan's team were put on hold, and the in-depth meetings scheduled for next week were postponed indefinitely. When Nathan learned that the funding channel had been completely shut down, he panicked and flew into a rage. He rushed straight to the seaside villa and had a violent argument with Olivia. Colin watched their mutual accusations and blame-shifting unfold through the villa's surveillance feed, relayed by his security team. That night, Olivia, with nowhere left to turn, drove straight to Colin's downtown backup apartment building. Without any prior notice, she frantically pressed the building entry intercom over and over. The intercom screen lit up with her face. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes full of fear and grievance. Her voice choked, as she kept hitting the lobby's glass door. "Colin, I'm right here outside your building. Open the door. We can clear up all these misunderstandings in person. Don't hide from me." Colin stood in the apartment entryway, watching her calmly through the security camera. His voice was cold and unyielding. "Any issues can be discussed over the phone. I'm not opening the door." Denied entry. Olivia immediately switched to her usual emotional manipulation, raising her voice, crying about 7 years of waiting, trying to guilt Colin with her long loneliness. "I've been waiting for you at home for 7 whole years. Every single day I was hoping you'd come back. And now that you're finally home, you're hiding from me and refusing to see me. What did I do wrong? Just tell me and I'll change. Just don't treat me like this." Colin had seen through this act long ago. If he opened the door, he'd be met with endless tears, apologies, and probing questions. She would try to figure out how much evidence he actually had and where his boundaries were, looking for a loophole. He wouldn't give her any chance to get close or test him. "All related matters from now on will be handled by my attorney, Rebecca. We will no longer communicate privately." That line shattered Olivia's fragile act completely. The fake grievance vanished from her face, replaced by a cold, bitter resentment, her tone sharp and mean. "Colin, do you really have to be this ruthless? 7 years of marriage and you won't spare me even a shred of decency?" Colin stared into the camera, his voice flat but heavy with meaning, exposing all her masks. "Decency is built on honesty and loyalty. You know exactly what you and Nathan have been doing. There's no point in keeping up the act anymore." With that, Colin cut the intercom. The screen went black. At that moment, the last remaining traces of youthful love and 7 years of longing he had stored for Olivia vanished completely. From here on, there was only legal reckoning and confrontation. No personal feelings left. At the same time, Grace completed the full access revocation. The back-end system permanently cancelled all of Olivia's family affiliate permissions. Her access to the group's family member archives, project database accounts, partner liaison channels, and internal meeting observer status were all locked down. Olivia would no longer be able to access any maritime project files or industry resources by virtue of being Mrs. Mather. The core information gap and identity convenience that she and Nathan had relied on to build their fraud were sealed off. With the only source of data cut off, the shell company's foundation collapsed, and their path to quick profit was completely blocked. With no funding talks left and no way to steal data, Nathan and Olivia resorted to the lowest tactics, spreading rumors and launching a moral crusade. trying to gain the upper hand in public opinion and force Colin to back down. The first call pressuring him came from Olivia's mother. Without discerning right or wrong, she went straight into moral condemnation, accusing Colin of being cold-hearted. Colin, it's normal for a married couple to have some disagreements. Olivia waited for you for 7 whole years. A woman staying alone in that big empty house. How lonely and hard it must have been. How can you be so cruel and destroy everything? Family shame shouldn't be aired out. Pull back, make some concessions, and reconcile. Colin listened calmly to the twisted reasoning. There was nothing left in him but indifference. He laid out the facts clearly. Ma'am, ordinary marital arguments can be worked out with compromise. But what Olivia did, colluding with someone else to steal classified commercial data, setting up a shell company to commit fraud, and embezzling marital assets to fund an outsider, that's crossed the line of the law. It's not just a simple family argument. But the old woman refused to listen to any objective facts. She kept leveraging her daughter's 7 years of youth as leverage, piling on moral pressure. She gave you her best 7 years, staying home alone all that time. Even if she made a small mistake, you should forgive her and be understanding. Why are you being so relentless? 7 years? I served in the Farsi Navy, earning every penny for this family with my own life. The villa, the household expenses, all her family's costs, I covered everything. I never shortchanged her in any way. The one who truly betrayed this marriage and let the other down was never me. With that, Colin ended the call, refusing to continue a pointless argument. After her mother's attempt failed, Olivia's younger brother followed up with a long WeChat message, full of sob stories and hints that the social circle would side with Olivia. They tried to paint Colin as the neglectful husband who was away at sea for years, cold and distant, causing his wife to make mistakes. They wanted to use public gossip to force Colin into retreating. Colin didn't reply to a single word. He took a full screenshot of the message and forwarded it to attorney Rebecca as supporting evidence for the malicious public pressure campaign. Rebecca quickly came back with verification. Olivia had already started spreading one-sided rumors within the upscale coastal residential circles and small private industry gatherings. She hid the facts of the business fraud and data theft. She only complained about her husband being away at sea for years, lacking communication, and her own loneliness. She was deliberately trying to gain sympathy in these circles and seize the moral high ground. Her goal was to use public pressure to force Colin to drop the legal charges. Learning of their public relations campaign, Colin immediately called a meeting with Grace and attorney Rebecca. They worked out a complete response strategy to dismantle the moral blackmail from all sides. First, all private calls and pleas from Olivia's relatives would be redirected to the attorney. Colin would have no more personal contact to prevent emotional manipulation through family ties. Second, the group's legal department would reach out to everyone in the industry circles who had heard the rumors, acquaintances, partner company executives, and simply share the objective facts about the commercial fraud and shell company scheme. They would not mention the affair, only dismantle the false persona behind their business fraud. Third, the legal team would prepare all notarized evidence and officially file a divorce lawsuit with the court. The filing would seek dissolution of the marriage, along with full documentation of misappropriated marital assets, stolen commercial data, and marital misconduct. The goal was to settle all damages through proper legal channels. Colin never intended to get caught up in endless, sordid family squabbles. He relied entirely on legal rules and complete evidence to settle all their scheming and betrayal. Their alleged advantages, 7 years of waiting, public sympathy, and family ties, all fell apart in the face of legally admissible, hard evidence. They held no weight at all. The court received the full set of notarized evidence, verified it met filing standards, and officially accepted the divorce suit. The court summons was delivered through legal channels to the seaside villa. Colin could easily imagine the panic and chaos the two of them would feel when they saw it. With funding channels cut, data access locked, and now a lawsuit filed, 3 blows at once. Nathan, unwilling to let years of planning go to waste, kept pushing Olivia to contest the case in court, delayed the proceedings, and fight for a share of the marital assets. Nathan had always been about the money. He never truly cared about Olivia. He kept urging her to use Colin's long deployments and their years of separation as a defense argument in court. A new chapter of his life had officially begun. The way was open, the sea breeze clear.